All right, SPSS number 2. We are going to work through this as well, right? So first thing we need to do is, right, pull up these descriptive statistics. So I am going to follow my instructions by hitting Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, and Frequencies. Right, so I tell you what variable to use, right? We're using education. So I bring that over, and I'm going to hit statistics, right, for quartiles, cut points for 10 equal groups, 95th percentile, mean, standard deviation, range, and that is all I need. All right, so I hit, right, that's all my things. Oh, I have to add that percentile, hit continue. Right, I actually don't need it to give me my frequency table, so I'm not going to have it include that because I don't really care. So I hit OK. Now, where most people ran into problems for question number 3 is that you aren't really telling me what this means in terms of education, right? You're just reporting numbers, but you're not telling me what that means, right? And so right, when we're doing statistics, especially through SPSS, we're not as concerned really about these numbers just in their raw form, but we're concerned about what these numbers mean to us, right? In doing statistics. So if we talk about the mean, what does the mean mean? Right, the mean is the average, right? So the average person in our study, right, that means that they probably, with 13.47 years of school, they probably, right, graduated high school and have at least some college, right? That's important information, right? That's interpreting it, right? So range, right? The range is 20, right? 20 years of education. That's a pretty big range, right, for education. So that might tell us, right? So that would tell us that that's a big range. But that is important to think about, right? Because if it wasn't education, say it was income, and our range was only $20 with 1,496 people surveyed, a range of 20 would be really small, right? But that's a pretty big range considering, right, we're talking about years in education, right? How many years of school did you complete? 20 is a big range, right? But then our interquartile range, right, might tell us, right, that there are some big outliers, right? But when we look at our interquartile range, if it shrinks significantly from 20 to something smaller, right, then we might start thinking, okay, we have some pretty crazy outliers, but there's really not that much variation, right? That might be the variation of college or, right, some college versus a master's degree or something like that, right? Our range shrinks. So what does that mean in terms of education? Similar with standard deviation, right? If we know that the average, if I picked a random person out of our sample, I would expect, right, that they would probably be within one, at most two standard deviations away from the mean, right? So that means that we could either go +3 or -3, right? But most people in our survey have some, right, type of education between 10 years, right? So dropping out of high school, right, you're around your sophomore year of high school, or, right, maybe they've finished college, right? So that would be 16, right? If I add that to my mean, that's 16 years. That is, right, finishing high school and finishing college. So again, think about when you're talking about what does this tell us about our sample, right? Then that interpret that. What does that mean, right? If our 95th percentile has 19 years of school under their belts, what does that mean, right? Does that means that the highest level, right, are out of our sample, right, the 95th percentile, the people who are, right, at the very, very top, right, that they have had 7 years after high school. So that probably means, right, that we're talking about a PhD, right? Most master's programs are only 2 years. So we can safely assume that they have an advanced degree, right? They are not just at a master's, they're probably at a PhD or a JD or an MD, right? We're talking about serious graduate school here. So when I ask you to tell me what it means in terms of education, right? Don't just tell me the mean is 13.47. So that means that the average number of years that our sample has been in school is 13.47 years, right? That doesn't tell me anything, right? So think about it, right? Interpret this. So the next step we're going to do is analyze, and then descriptive statistics, right? And then we're going to do descriptives. Oop, hello. Nope, come back here. Descriptives, right? To find the mean and standard deviation for age, right? So again, I'm going to right click to display variable names because I like to look at things that way. I'm going to bring it over. I'm going to look at my options to make sure I have my mean and my standard deviation checked off. All right, and then I'm also going to hit save standardized values as variables, right, so that I generate a ZAGE, right, a Z age thing, right? It's going to take all of the ages of the responses and turn them all into Z scores, right, so that I now have a Z distribution, right? So there it is, right? It pops that up, tells me what it's done. Cool beans, got that. Then I am going to split my file. So I'm going to go data, and then I'm going to hit split file. And then I'm going to organize output by groups. And I am going to use my key variable. So for these examples, I have been using porn law. So I'm going to find porn law over here somewhere and bring it over. Right. So, right, I am going to split my group by porn law. I'm say, okay. Sort cases by porn law. It has it down there, so it tells me that it did it. Right, and then right, I am going to do frequencies again. Analyze descriptive statistics, frequencies, and I'm going to find the mean, standard deviation, range, quartiles, all that stuff. So I don't ask you for the percentiles, so I'll get rid of that. I don't ask you for the cut points, so we'll get rid of that. Right, so I have mean, standard deviation, range, and quartiles for the variables age and education. So I got all my stats over there. Education is still here from the last time I did it. So now I'm just going to bring age over. Again, you could include the frequency tables, but it just takes up a lot of space. So we're not going to do that because that's not really important here. So, right, I am just going to, so now when I look at my output, right, I have feelings about pornography laws, IAP. We don't care about IAP. That's a missing value. So people who think porn should be illegal for everyone, right, that gives me the mean, right, same, right, highest year of school mean, age mean, standard deviation, range, all of that stuff, right? Here we go, illegal under 18, right? So what it's doing when I split the file is that it is telling me everyone who said illegal under 18, right? That is, it's giving me information about just people who answered this way to that question. So that's what I've done when I split my file, right? So now I can see that, right, similar education level, right, a little bit younger on average, right, 55 versus 46. Right, and now legal for all is actually a little bit older than illegal for under 18, and they have a little bit less education than everyone else in the sample. Again, I don't care about DK or NA, right? Those are missing values for us, so we're not going to worry about that. And again, when I ask you to tell me what it means, right, to interpret this information, what does it tell us about this, right? Well, it tells us that maybe people who, right, think that pornography should be legal for everyone, they actually have less education than folks who think it should be different, right? We know that the youngest group on average here is going to be people who think it should be illegal for folks under 18, right? We may also want to look at our right, percentiles. So, right, the oldest group here is 58 versus the oldest group here is 64, right? 69. Think about what all this stuff means in terms of your variables, right? We know what these things mean. A lot of you were really good at telling me, right, what a standard deviation is, or what a range means, or what the mean tells us, but you weren't using it in terms of the variable, right, and what this actually means for what we're looking at. Right? What does it tell us if people who think one thing have a higher education than people who think a different thing about the same topic? Right? So again, I'm looking for you to really interpret this information. Next thing we do, right, is we are using ZAGE, right? So we are going to find the mean for ZAGE. Again, we're still split, so it should then, right, still give me this for each category, which it does, right? So I can look at illegal to all, right? What the mean is there, what the mean is here, and what the mean is there, right? And so how do the z-scores differ? Well, let's think about this, right? Remember, if you have a z-score of 0, right, that means that you are the average. Anything above 0 means you're above average, and anything that's negative means you're below average. So for my results here, right? People who think that pornography should be illegal for everyone, right? They are slightly above the average age of people for the entire sample, right? People that think that porn should be illegal for folks under 18, but legal for folks over 18, that's slightly younger, right, than the average. And similarly, I find the same thing for, right, people who think porn should be legal, right? So people who think that porn should be illegal under all circumstances are slightly older than the rest of the sample, right? Again, interpret this, right? Tell me what this means in terms of what we're actually looking at. So now I am going to unsplit my data, right, by taking the same steps as I did before, right? So I hit data, split file, right, next to last one down here, right? Now I'm going to have it analyze all cases, do not create groups. I could bring porn law back over, but I don't need to, right? If all I'm doing is analyze all cases, don't create groups, I don't actually have to bring that guy back over, right? So I say, okay, right, split file off. And now, right, I'm going to ask you to find the mean and standard deviation for ZAGE, right? Mean is 0, standard deviation is 1. Why did that happen? Right, because we made them all z-scores, right? So we have a standardized, right, we have a standardized data set here. So that tells us, right, the average will always be 0, and the standard deviation will always be 1 for a z distribution. And that's what we did. We made a z distribution by creating this ZAGE. So that is the walkthrough for SPSS number 1 and number 2. Hope you've enjoyed this, and let me know if you have any questions.